Hello and welcome to Mr. Game Review Show. Don't forget to subscribe the channel, hit the like button and put a comment below the video. Thank you so much. Midnight Resistance for the Sega Mega Drive is a classic run-and-gun shooter that was ported from the arcade version by Data East. The game tells the story of a lone soldier on a mission to rescue his family from an evil organization, taking players through a series of intense, side-scrolling levels filled with waves of enemies, bosses, and weapon upgrades. Midnight Resistance delivers fast-paced, challenging gameplay that rewards quick reflexes and precision. The main draw is its unique control system, where you can shoot in multiple directions. While this was an innovative feature in the arcade version using a rotary joystick, the Mega Drive port adapts it to a standard game controller, which some players find awkward due to the limitations in directional control. However, this still adds a strategic layer as you position yourself and aim, rather than merely shooting forward. The visuals are well done for the Mega Drive, though they aren't as detailed as the arcade version. Levels are designed to evoke a gritty, dystopian feel with a lot of industrial backgrounds and ominous set pieces, though color usage can feel somewhat limited. The sound effects and music work well with the tone of the game, creating an adrenaline-pumping atmosphere that complements the action. Weapon upgrades play a key role. You start with a basic rifle, but defeating enemies grants keys, which you can use to buy weapons like flamethrowers, homing missiles, and spread guns between levels. This mechanic gives players more choice in their playstyle, adding depth to the experience. One aspect players should be ready for is the difficulty level. Like many classic arcade games, Midnight Resistance can be punishingly hard, with limited lives and continues that push players to master the mechanics quickly. Midnight Resistance on the Sega Mega Drive is a faithful but challenging port that retains the spirit of the arcade original, though the controls are less precise. It remains a rewarding experience for fans of retro shooters and offers a solid dose of action, atmosphere, and nostalgia for players up for the challenge. If you enjoy games like Contra or Metal Slug, Midnight Resistance is worth a try. In Midnight Resistance, the player's main goal is to rescue their family members who have been kidnapped by a criminal syndicate. The protagonist, a soldier, embarks on a mission to fight through enemy forces, infiltrate the syndicate's strongholds, and ultimately face off against powerful bosses in a bid to save his loved ones. As players progress through each level, they face increasing challenges with tougher enemies and more complex environments. Between levels, they can use collected keys to purchase weapons and power-ups that aid them in their mission. Rescuing each family member becomes a core motivation, with each one saved granting a sense of accomplishment and bringing the protagonist closer to dismantling the enemy organization. Midnight Resistance features several boss fights that serve as climactic battles at the end of key levels. These bosses are much larger and more challenging than regular enemies, with unique attack patterns and high health pools. Each boss requires players to stay on their toes and use strategic movement and weapon selection to survive. Boss encounters include powerful enemy vehicles, heavily armored machines, and sinister operatives from the criminal syndicate. These fights are generally more intense and difficult than regular gameplay, providing a satisfying sense of accomplishment upon victory. The bosses contribute to the game's challenging, arcade-like feel, pushing players to master the game's mechanics to progress. If you're a fan of classic run-and-gun shooters like Contra or Metal Slug, Midnight Resistance is definitely worth playing. The game has a lot of the elements that make retro action games fun: fast-paced combat, challenging levels, unique bosses, and weapon upgrades that add a layer of strategy. However, it's worth considering the game's difficulty level and control adjustments on the Sega Mega Drive, especially if you're used to more modern or forgiving gameplay mechanics. The challenge might feel punishing at times, but for many retro gamers, that's part of the appeal. The graphics and sound might feel a bit dated, but they have a nostalgic charm that fans of old-school arcade ports will appreciate. If you enjoy games that test your reflexes and give you a sense of accomplishment with each level you beat, Midnight Resistance can be a satisfying, if challenging, experience. It's a solid example of early 90s arcade action on a home console, and it offers a rewarding trip back to a classic era of gaming.